Novi Community School District Board of Education meeting. I'd like to everybody stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first, we have an agenda set out. Do I get an approval of the?
Mr. Cook, I'd like to move to have the DC trip moved from consent agenda into information and discussion, please.
The DC trip moved from consent into information discussion?
Yes, so it could go on next week, or next meeting for approval.
Support.
Okay,
Okay. Then I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
okay, have a motion to approve it as amended.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Mitchner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to vote yes.
You are.
You are.
You are.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Great job.
Okay, this brings us to our next item, which is new board member oath of office. Mr. Micah?
Thank you. We have received from the Oakland County Board of County Canvassers that we have two members of our board who have been elected by the public from the election held on November 5th, 2024. Mary Ann Roney and Jamie Klebert were elected to 6-year terms of office expiring December 31st, 2030. Tonight, before we move into the meeting agenda, we would like to have a ceremonial swearing in of each of the candidates, and I believe tonight we'll start with Mary Ann Roney. And so, Trustee Roney, if you could approach the podium, and I believe you have a guest, the mayor of Novi, and we'll commence with the first ceremony.
Perfect.
Honorable Mayor.
That's quite all right. Thank you, Mr. Micah. I want to congratulate both of you on your victories. I do say that, you know, there's only one body in this city that has a harder job than the mayor and city council, and it's the school boards that represent the community so well. So with that, I do have the pleasure of administering the oath to Mary Ann Rooney, and so if you're ready.
I'm ready.
If you could please repeat after me. I, Mary Ann Rooney,
Mary Ann
Roney, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of member of the Board of Education
of member of the Board of Education
of Novi Community School District,
of Novi Community School District,
Michigan,
Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's a, someone will do it. Thank you. Oh, Sheila too. Thank you. And then I'll just, because last year, I'm not going to say anything, but my husband is here today, and my daughter, and our mechanic, or her boyfriend. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And tonight I have the pleasure of administering the oath of office to Miss Jamie Klebert, and I've had the opportunity to get to know Jamie through as her very active role as a parent in our community. She's been the president of the Orchard Hills PTO. She's served on inter-school council, Girl Scouts. She's done a ton of things in this community, and I am always impressed by her perspective, and I think she's going to offer just a great service to this community and to this school board. So congratulations to you, and if you could please repeat after me. I, Jamie Klebert,
I, Jamie Klebert,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of member
of the office of member
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Novi Community School
of the
District,
Novi Community School District,
Michigan,
Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Tonight I have my husband Trevor with me and my 3 kids, Allie, my daughter in 8th grade, Kason, my son in 6th grade, and Kylie, my daughter in 4th grade at Orchard Hills. Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations, you two, and welcome to the board, Jamie, and welcome back, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
This brings us to election of officers. Election of officers, it's held first board meeting every year, and the four positions are president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. We met in December to discuss any desires. Tonight will take a nomination for each office, look for support, and then if there are any other nominations for that office, we will take those also, and then we will do a roll call vote as to preference of each trustee. Mr. Mena.
I'd like to nominate Daniel Ruskin for board president.
Support.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations for president? Seeing none. Mr. Mena, will you do a roll call vote for us?
Trustee Beaudoin,
Yes.
trustee Cook,
Yes.
trustee Kleber,
Yes.
trustee Mena, yes, trustee Mishner,
Yes.
trustee Roney,
Yes.
trustee Ruskin.
Yes.
Congratulations. You
Thank you.
will now be president.
Yeah.
Would you like to take it now, or?
No, you go ahead and finish. He's like, please.
Okay, so after that, we will take nominations for vice president. Mr. Mena.
Yes, I would like to nominate Mr. Paul Cook as vice president.
Support?
Do we have any other nominations? No? Okay, then, Mr. Mena, we will call the vote.
Trustee Beaudoin.
Yes.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
trustee Kleber,
Yes.
trustee Mena, yes, trustee Mishner.
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
trustee Ruskin.
Yes.
Okay. So we will switch shortly. Then next, we will take nominations for secretary. Mrs. Beaudoin?
I'd like to nominate trustee Mishner for secretary.
I'll support.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, Mr. Mena?
Trustee Beaudoin,
Yes.
trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Kleber.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes, trustee Mishner.
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
trustee Ruskin.
Yes.
And then the last one is the treasurer. We have a nomination.
I'll nominate Mary Ann Roney as treasurer.
Okay, thank you.
Support.
We have one nomination. Do we have any others? No? Okay. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Beaudoin.
Yes.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Kleber.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Mishner.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin.
Yes.
Okay, if you just give us a minute or two, you can have the gavel. If you want that computer, this one.
I think we're all settled.
Swapping
They're gonna
paper.
swap later, paperwork. It's your job over there now, Ms. Commissioner. Okay, we are gonna move on in our agenda. We're gonna move to celebrations. Tonight, we have the opportunity for 2 celebrations. The first one from the Michigan State Fair
chair people and a donation, so I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Meinke.
Okay, so typically on our agenda, we do have a location for donations, but this is a little bit different because this actually is not a donation directly to the school district. But over the past 22 years, Novi Youth Assistance has been helping Novi families and has been a tremendous partner to our school district, to our city, to our community as a whole. And the Michigan State Fair Suburban Showplace have been a big part of supporting them in their efforts. But recently, over the past year, Novi Youth Assistance has taken up residence formally, physically here in our district, whereas before their offices were located in the Civic Building. And so this presentation would have historically been at a city council meeting, but because Novi Youth Assistance is housed in our district now, they're coming here tonight to make a presentation about to Novi Youth Assistance because they're here as a part of the district. So without further ado, Mr. Blair Bowman Sr. is here from Suburban Showplace as well as the Michigan State Fair, and I believe he'd like to say a few words.
I will be very brief. I just here tonight on behalf of the Michigan State Fair is presented by Henry Ford Health Systems and HAP, who is our great presenting partner and help us with the resources to allow us to do. Every year we try to select a worthy charity and try to keep it local. Last year, in fact, we had the great opportunity to support the service dog program at the middle school. So nice to see a familiar face. And this year I'm saying now we're supporting humans this year. So it's a good thing. But seriously, this year couldn't have been more, poignant, and it was pretty well publicized. We had a youth-on-youth violence situation that was very, very challenging. So we couldn't think of a better organization. We certainly have supported, and we've had great interaction with them throughout the years. But we just wanted to provide a $10,000 donation to the Novi Youth Assistance Program. So happy to do that, and thank you very much for all the collaboration.
Thank you.
Here's the small check.
Good evening, Greg Koch. I chair the Novi Youth Assistance Organization. This is my second year, and I just want to thank Novi Suburban Showcase and all the partners we've had in the past year. We've made some great progress. One of our board members here, Lisa Fenchel, and really, we're really doing a good job serving our community, and we made good progress, touch a lot of lives, and so thank you all for your support, and we look for bigger and better things in the coming year.
Thank you. Just try. Yeah, there we go. Good deal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, appreciate it. You keep the small one.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman, and thank you for supporting our Novi Youth. We appreciate you, and we also appreciate all the work that Novi Youth Assistance does here for the community. So thank you for your service. We will move on to our second celebration, which is National Local School Board Month celebration.
Yeah, all right. So January is School Board Appreciation Month, and so we've developed a little bit of a tradition here. And so what we're going to do is we have representatives from our various departments and buildings here who would like to share just some sentiments as well as some recognitions for each of you as board members. Before we do that, I'll read the resolution formally, and then I'll ask each of them to come and share their thoughts about each of you as a board. So whereas Michigan is home to more than 600 locally elected school board of educations that work to enrich the lives of Michigan students through education and directly influence instruction in Michigan's public schools, and Article 8, Section 2 of the Michigan Constitution of 1963 states that providing for the education of Michigan's children is a fundamental duty of state government. And whereas local school board members represent their community to ensure that educational opportunities are provided to the children and young adults in their community that will advance student achievement in the schools and communities in which they serve. And whereas during this month, we join with the Michigan Association of School Boards, the Michigan Department of Education, local school districts and community organizations to recognize and raise awareness of the countless efforts and contributions of local school boards and school board members throughout Michigan. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Novi Community School District, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2025 as Local School Board Month and honor the contribution of Novi Community School District Board members, Dr. Danielle Ruskin, Paul Cook, Mary Ann Roney, Jason Mishner, Willie Mena, Betsy Bodwine, and Jamie Klebert. And with that, before you all vote on that, I would like to offer any volunteers that would like to come up and say a few words and share anything you have for the board. Start with you, Principal Danforth.
Good evening. It is an honor to stand before you all today. I'm always honored to be before you and just thankful for all that you do. We know that education is a very thankless job. No matter what seat you're in, you don't get a lot of kudos and a lot of pats on the back, and I feel like you guys should get them all year round. And so we gave you guys the fishbowl last year from OH, and my fourth graders have created some more notes for you guys to carry you through this school year, to make sure that they thank you for all of the hard work that you do and the decisions that you make, because we know that sometimes the decisions are not easy.
Perfect, thank you. We'll put those in our fishbowl. As you notice, we still have back here, and it's important to us.
We also have T-shirts for each person, and they are labeled because Mr. Michael was able to hunt down your size, your T-shirt sizes for us. So we do have some T-shirts. If you don't mind, can I open one of yours?
Go for it.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. So I will open it because it has a little play on OH on there, so I want you guys to see. So here's our Novi T-shirts for you, and these are for the board,
Oh, that's so cute.
so that you all can rep OH.
Oh, I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes.
A little paw there.
I love
yeah.
it.
And our little paw. So we thank you for everything that you do. And you also have, just because Ms. Cleveland is so special to OH, so when I first got here, she cleaned out the PTO closet. And she brought us these lovely bags.
For the trash.
And we repurposed them in the office. But here, tag your it. We're going to give this back to you. Because we appreciate all of the things that you poured into OH. You have poured your heart and soul into OH, and you've done so much for those kids on the board, for the teachers, and we are so grateful for everything that you've done, and we want to congratulate you properly. So thank you for all that you've done, and all that you're going to continue to do, all that you all will continue to do. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you. She always goes first.
It's hard to top this.
We'll go next, I'll go next. So I'm gonna present for Novi Woods and also for Parkview because Ms. Murphy couldn't make it tonight. So we'll start with Parkview. She wanted to say that at Parkview, we like to say that words matter. So Mrs. Murphy and some friends talked about the role of school board members, and we created a word cloud for each of you to display. We thank you for your service. Your work is appreciated every single day. So she thanks you for that. Do we pass it out?
Sure.
Are you ready? Okay. For Novi Woods, we wanted to bring something to the table that was from the heart of students. So our fourth graders wrote some thank you cards for you for all of the work that you do. We had our classes create a magnet, so as you get a morning coffee in the morning every morning, you can look at your refrigerator and know that we appreciate every single thing that you do. And wrapped all around it is a Novi Woods lanyard, so feel free to display that proudly like we all do at Novi Woods, and thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you so much.
For those, we really appreciate all of you, the time you give and energy you give to supporting all the students and making sure that we were all set up for success to serve them. So we really do appreciate everything you do. And in your bags, you have some nice notes and pictures from second grade friends. And then we should give you a sweatshirt that has our branding and a little message about once you're a Wildcat, you're always a Wildcat. And it's
Oh, that's so sweet.
our new cricket skills.
Did you make them?
I did make them.
Look at you.
Love cricket skills.
New cricket owners are so fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll change to
Thank you.
just had the holidays, and they just keep coming.
Uh-huh.
On behalf of Deerfield, I am very proud and grateful to be part of the Novi Community School District. Very proud and grateful that you guys are leading the charge. The fact that we're called Novi Community School District, community is the heart of what we do. So here at Deerfield, we have 2 community celebrations that we do. Our students come to do town hall, like community circles, where the whole school comes together, and we talk about all the great things that are happening in our schools, and we hand out awards to kids who are showing great character within our community. And then we also do cabins where we mix up the kids. And so what we've started over the last few years is every graduating class that comes through Deerfield is gifted a shirt from our PTO with a particular color. And so the kids wear those to those events, so we see them at our community circle, we see all the orange in one pocket of 100 kids, and then in the cabins we see them all mixed up. And our staff is part of that community as well, as long as you guys as well. So our staff color is green, and so we have gifted every single one of you a staff community shirt that you can wear. Good bet on a Friday, if you are sporting one, you will see lots of kids at Deerfield and teachers wearing it as well. So thank you for leading our community and letting me be a small part of that community as well.
Thank you, Mr. Franchi.
Lee and I are here to represent Novi Meadows tonight, and we wanted to extend our thank you again for our wonderful new facility that we have. The new Novi Meadows is absolutely fabulous, and everyone is enjoying it. One of the things that we've been able to do is highlight some of our fine arts this year. Thanks to the new facility, we have 2 amazing art rooms that are state-of-the-art, and they also have a kiln that works, which we haven't had in many, many, many years. So the kids are really enjoying doing some play projects, and they were the ones that decided that they wanted to create something for you tonight. So what we have for you are some coasters that they have created. They're all separate, they're all different, and they all represent something that is Novi related. So we've included a little thing so you can see who made them for you. But thank you for all you do, and
Thank you.
supporting the fine arts.
So cute. That. Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of Novi Middle School, its staff, its students, and myself, I wanted to say thank you for all that you do for our community, for our school. We're very lucky places to have all of you. We pay you a lot of money to be here. That you're willing to give your time and make our community a great place to learn and to work. So we have just a small little gift for you. It's a candy jar. It's full of mints, so you can prep yourselves for meetings tonight. We also have some little notes from our student council students as well inside the jar for you to enjoy. I'll give you some thanks for all of your time.
Thank you, Rob.
The students do appreciate waking up later with our start time at middle school and the 45.
Oh, we're gonna put that out there, aren't we?
They do like that as well.
Thank you. That's really nice.
Thank you. If you want a minute, then you can have it. Okay.
Hi there, Ron Kane, representing the high school, and Don Wachowski. I want to say thank you for everything that you do and the opportunities you are able to provide our students and staff. Don really wanted to model today what we have for our appreciation to you. Thanks to our school store, is a nice winter hat. We got a Novi baseball hat, and we have a t-shirt. To say thank you. You know, it's a small token of all the time and effort that you guys put in, and just want to say thank you. So we appreciate you very much.
This is hot off the press, our newest line, athletics. And as Mr. Kane said, you know, one of the things we talk about consistently is leading with gratitude. And we do that with appreciation for what you do, appreciation for our facilities, appreciation for the opportunities that you provide our students and help provide our students, whether it be facilities or you know, any type of after-school support. That is huge into our culture that we have here, and I know that all of you play a big role in making that happen, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron and Don.
We're gonna be like the best school board.
I know.
Yes.
Early Childhood Center and Community Education for always being so supportive of early childhood. We do have a small token of appreciation. Our peer leader, Chris Stricker, in our building put together a calendar for you. I want to give a special thank you to Mary Ann who came to our trunk or treat and participated. We had a great turnout. It was very nice to see there.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for everything you guys do.
Thanks.
You may have to move the flowers so you can see your child.
So I'm Kathy Ferris,
Thank
representing
you.
the medical team that we have here in the district. And I want,
Go medical team.
we're small but mighty, right? But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you keep this a priority in our district because there are so many districts that do not have anything medical or nurses. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm very grateful that you keep us going and that you keep it very important. So there's just a couple medical trinkets in there that I always like, so.
Thanks, Kathy. Everybody loves medical trinkets. I do.
These are all things we're gonna use, right?
Yeah, this is just two things.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. That's right, I have to know it
Hi, I'm Sarah Trimmer with Adult Ed and Career Prep. And our team at Career Prep, they are all different boxes. So you guys are gonna have to fight over them. They are hand painted, or we used our Cricut. They are reflection boxes. And we also made you reflection journals. Because I think we go by the adage, especially in education, practice makes perfect. But research shows that reflecting is actually when you learn the most. So we think it's really important to take some time to step back and reflect. So you have a whole year's worth of reflecting paper here in your boxes. So we are super thankful that you allow us and support one of the few alternative schools in the area and the #2 adult ed program in the state of Michigan. So thank you for that and all your support. So I will let you guys
Thank you.
argue over these. I'm starting on this side this
Oh.
year. Last year you got it to start. So.
That seems fair. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim. I am from food service. I am a lunch lady. Our food service department is so grateful for the support that this school board gives us every day. My team is committed to the district and the students. We are so blessed. Inside your bag, you'll find some really great treats that our executive chef made from scratch. And so you get to enjoy those. You have a Chartwell's pen so that you can remember that Chartwell's is here also. And you also have this cute little, what is that? Nutritional facts about how hard you all work every day. So we are extremely grateful, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for feeding us as well.
It's a really good first meeting.
Hi everybody, I'm Emily Klensky and I'm the Director of Secondary Instruction, and today I'm here to share a gift from our virtual team. And our virtual team has a motto that they are a compassionate, flexible, and passionate community. And we see many of those characteristics every day from our board members, so we're super grateful for you and the time we put in. And on our t-shirts that we're giving you as well, which seems like a theme, these are labeled. You'll see that there's the aperture in the Novi logo, and then that shows how our virtual team opens and shuts to support. Oh, this is Jamie. Sorry. Opens and shuts to support kids when they need it and in the type of instruction that they need.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
We can fix that.
Just in case you can't tell us apart.
I can take a picture and send it to you.
Now I know why you brought it.
Save the best for the last. So on behalf of Novi for All, which is our whole entire special education department from birth to age 26, but especially on behalf of NETC, we have a wonderful gift that the students have bought for you with the money that they have sold from their mobile market. And because we are number one, they are Stanleys. We leveled up, next year you might get Rolex, just watch out.
I'm good.
You're good, Robbie.
So, and then we also had an ornament that is what our adults sold this past year. They've done really well, and so Robbie's here tonight to present the gift to you. This is also his last year. He's graduating with us. We have a big graduation plan. We reserved already the middle school auditorium. We expect it to be big. There's a QR code for the invite, so.
Oh, yeah.
Robbie, is there anything else you'd like to say? I'll stole the show.
Thank you, Robbie and Shaylee.
And there's some liquid IV in case you need some.
Just in case. On a random day.
Wonderful, thank you. That's part of you.
Oh, that's part. Pass those on.
They are.
And then, if you had an opportunity, for those of you that participated in strategic planning, the cabinet's gift to you is the fact that you have some umbrellas. And that came from our new president, Dr. Ruskin. So each of you now will have something that will remind you of our strategic plan.
Oh, in case I forgot.
And if it gets rainy, it serves double purpose.
Thank you.
I want the mushrooms.
Dr. Ruskin, would it be okay if I shared that story?
Yes, sure.
So when, for all of you who missed our very exhilarating strategic planning session, Dr. Ruskin was trying to explain how we could put different categories of support and importance into umbrellas, and drew what most of us thought were mushrooms on a whiteboard. And then everyone was a bit confused, and there thus became a big joke about the mushrooms and the umbrellas. So
That's right.
that is. But how lovely.
Well, I want to say on behalf of the board, thank you. This is always an embarrassing, like in a humbling way, meeting. Jamie, you came to the right meeting. I mean, you are good. We don't need to do laundry for a while. We are all set. But most importantly, besides the generous gifts and getting your kiddos involved and all the wonderful ideas, is to see all of you here and to have you here just to share our partnership together. Because I know there's times when some of you are able to come, or some of us, and we don't always get together. But looking out here into the audience of people who make the wheels go round and round every day in our schools is really amazing. And so we want to give back our gratitude and thanks to you.
And that they would take 3 hours of their night to stay here with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that for?
Yeah.
The door's locked, they can't leave.
So thank you so much, and we'll continue on our agenda. We're going to do comments from the audience, but
I'm gonna take a motion on the.
I don't know if we need to actually.
You don't have to.
Resolve to celebrate ourselves.
Yeah, no, I think we're so grateful. We're good.
Good.
Yeah. So we are going to move on to comments from the audience, but before we do, you are welcome to stay, but I know you all have families and have long, busy days with kids all day long, so if you decide that you are good for the day, please, we will not be offended. Thank you.
Before her family leaves, did you want to get any pictures with your family, or did you do that?
Are you sure? Sometimes we do.
Because
We have like a little break here.
I have photos like with my family, and then if you wanted to do that before they go. Okay.
Well, you could run and grab them. I'm sure you could call them. You're fine. Oh, yeah. But Ben doesn't come until Ben won't be here. She goes, I'll take one at home. I said, Ben won't be there.
Oh, yeah. We'll have plenty of opportunity.
Okay, we will continue on. Now we have an opportunity for comments from the audience. If anybody would like to come speak to the board, if you can give your green card to Sheila and she'll bring it up. Seeing no one tonight, we will move on to our consent agenda. We have one item on our consent agenda. It is the Novi Board of Education regular meeting minutes from, hold on, I'm a little confused on here, from our last meeting, which I think was December 19th. So if I can get a motion? Mr. Cook?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Mr. Mena. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our action items. Our first action item this evening is the personnel report. Mr. Meinke.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Dr. Carino for our personnel report this evening.
Thank you. This evening, we present the following individuals for your consideration with recommendations to hire. Claire Grossen is being recommended as the Village Oaks music teacher. Claire has previous experience in the Homer Community School District as a K-4 music and high school choir teacher. We also recommend Ava Wyzorik as a third grade teacher at Novi Woods. Ava completed her student teaching in Farmington Public Schools and recently graduated from Western Michigan University. Additionally, we recommend Jarek Balk for a bus driver position. Jarek has worked as a security officer and valet parking manager. We have one resignation this evening as Devon Harrison has resigned from his bus driver position. And this concludes tonight's personnel report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. If I can get a motion? Mrs. Roney?
That the Novi Community School Board District of Ed adopt the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support. Recommended by Mrs. Roney and supported by Mrs. Beaudoin. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Carino, I will let you
Thank you.
do the honors.
We have two of our new staff members with us tonight. I'd like to introduce Claire Grossen. You may come up.
You can just go up to the, yeah.
Hi, I am Claire Grossen. I am excited to start at Village Oaks. I have a previous experience teaching many levels of music. I've taught middle school, high school band, I've been a choir teacher, and I have also have experience teaching elementary music. So I'm really excited to start at Village Oaks. And I love working with all of the students in the school. I have a passion for music education and how it can positively impact students throughout their educational career. And yeah, I'm really excited what I can do in the district. So.
Welcome. Thank you.
Did you bring somebody with you?
Oh, yes, I brought my mom with me.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Ava Wyzorik. I'm starting at Novi Woods. This week has been great so far, and everybody's been so amazing and kind and supportive of me starting. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to get my foot in such a good district so early and continue to grow as an educator here.
Congratulations and welcome. Okay, we will move on to our next action item, which is the board meeting calendar approval. Mr. Meinke.
Yeah, so this is something that we started doing last year where we actually, in the organizational meeting, you typically approve the year ahead of calendar meetings. We have extended this to an 18-month calendar, just so for those of you that like to plan ahead, you have this particular calendar going through July 16th of 2026. So the various meetings are outlined on the calendar as you've seen, such as work sessions, organizational meetings, personnel reports, things like that. So the board meeting calendar through July 16th, 2026 is there for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Meinke. If I can get a motion. Mr. Mishner?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting calendar as presented.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mishner, supported by Mrs. Roney. Any comments or questions? Mr. Cook?
Yeah, this is all great, but I like getting this out now. It doesn't mean we cannot alter it in the future. So if something does come up, like a football game on a Thursday night that might coincide with one of these, then, you know, we could always alter it at that point. So.
Or a cheer competition.
Or a cheer competition, or a band competition, something like that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our third action item tonight, which is the designate of the depositors for the school funds. Mr. Meinke.
So each year, annually at your organizational meeting, we're required by law to designate our depositories for school funds. We have essentially listed our banking institutions, Fifth Third Bank, MyLaugh, and JP Morgan Chase Bank. This resolution also designates the people by position, not name, who have the ability to sign checks and are authorized to use the safe deposit box and deposit funds into our accounts. So the resolution as presented is there for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Meinke. If I can get a motion. Mr. Cook?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Ed adopt the depositors as recommended.
You have support? Support. Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Ms. Kleber. Any comments or conversation about this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We will move on to our final action item, which is the construction contingency increase, structural steel and fire safety. Mr. Meinke.
So back on December 12th, the Capital Projects Committee met and we discussed the sixth grade house renovations. At that time, we uncovered some unforeseen conditions, primarily dealing with the absence of structural steel that jeopardized the structural integrity of the roof, which required us to reinforce some of the bracing of the roof structure, which would need to be approved by our structural engineer. Additionally, we had some change orders dealing with fire safety and the ability for us to create fire blocking in some of the soffits around the entire perimeter. And so these additional measures created unforeseen conditions that we now feel we are kind of at the end of because we have everything uncovered. In our baseball, softball projects, we were under on contingency. And so what we're asking in order to cover the cost of the unforeseen conditions is to increase the project contingency by $875,000 to be funded out of owner contingency, of which there's money in that particular side of the contingency. And that came for consideration at the December 19th meeting, and it's here for approval this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Meinke. If I can get a motion. Mrs. Bodwine?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the structural steel and fire safety measure change orders through the funding of $875,000 of additional project contingency from the owner contingency fund as presented.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Bodwine and supported by Mrs. Roney. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I know Mr. Donnelly's here today. Mr. Cook?
Mr. Donnelly, how do we know, this structural steel one kind of popped up on us, kind of unbeknownst until we started turning into the ITC. How do we know we're not just kicking the can down the road with a solution? I would think that the way it should be done would be putting a separate beam up and tearing out the whole wall and then putting new support structures in.
Well, I can tell you that the structural engineer under TMP has evaluated it and come up with solutions and recommendations. So I do not feel that we're kicking the can down the road. I feel that we're coming up with a solution that's going to be a permanent fix moving forward. It was just an unknown condition that was exposed through demolition. We got the right people involved, and I feel it's a permanent solution moving forward.
It just kind of seems a little bit weaker to me than could have created a whole new kind of exterior structure.
I think it's the most cost-effective permanent solution. I defer to our professionals in their opinion, so I feel confident in where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Do we have any other questions? Mrs. Bodwine?
Not really a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this to us as a lump sum instead of a bunch of tiny things, because I think that is a little easier for everybody to understand just in the community. But also, I wanted to express gratitude for the way this project has been managed overall, because I do think it's going very well from everything I'm hearing. And with the baseball and softball being not really chewing into that contingency, this is great that now we have that available. So thank you for your diligence on the rest of how this project has been going.
You're welcome.
And also
Appreciate it.
for the attention to the safety, being that we don't like the roof to fall down. So thank you. I'll end with that.
We can all agree on that, right, Mr. Donnelly?
Everybody likes the roof, yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
If I
Mr.
may,
Micah,
I
yeah,
just
please.
would add to Mr. Cook's question, which I think is a very good question. I think there are additional structural things that could be done to make it, more robust, I would say. The concern, of course, is one of the benefits of repurposing a building is the cost savings of not rebuilding the whole structure. So I think this solution gives us the most cost-effective yet permanent, safe solution for the structural steel. But I definitely would not disagree that there's ways to rebuild it that would be, probably longer term, more sturdy. But I think this is a pretty good solution considering what was uncovered. So, just thought I'd add that.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Thanks, Mr. Donnelly. I
Thank
had an
you.
opportunity to go over there today and kind of see what this was all about, and so get an understanding on, that's not my forte, so got to see the beam. All right.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, I
you.
think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we will move on to information and discussion. We have 2 items this evening. We have district negotiation team members. We'll start with that, Mr. Micah.
Yeah, one of the things that we have done, and I believe Mr. Cook has had, has talked about this in the past, when we have negotiations on any given year with one of our collective bargaining groups, that we would actually come to the board to formally have you authorize who is a member of the negotiating team for that particular group. And so, as a matter of practice, Dr. Carino oversees our contracts, and so she certainly will be involved in all negotiations. I will be involved potentially in the negotiations, although maybe not in every single one. But this particular year, as you recall, we have a longer term contract with our teachers. So we have the NEA, which was settled as a 3-year agreement, as well as our NESPA agreement, which means that they have been placed on longer terms. So we don't have to negotiate every single bargaining unit every year at the same time, which is what we ran into our first year. And so by doing this, it staggers that and it makes it possible to enter into more intentional dialogue with each bargaining group, right? So just as a way of reminding everyone, we have the Transportation Association, our drivers, our bus drivers, as well as some of our staff in that group. We also have the Teamsters, which is our new maintenance bargaining agreement and bargaining unit. And a part of Teamsters is also our bus mechanics. They fall under that particular bargaining unit. We also have our NEA, which is our teachers. We have NESPA, which is our secretaries. We have other employee groups that might not be represented by a collective bargaining unit. And we have others that are emerging that may come forward as an additional group here or there. But this particular year in 2025, we will be negotiating again with NTA, our drivers in the transportation system, as well as our maintenance bargaining unit. And so our cabinet is gonna be on this resolution. I just will put it out there to say that we may not all be in every single one of those negotiation sessions. For the Teamsters, we're also asking for Mike Dragoo, who's our Director of Maintenance, Eric Heddle, who's our Assistant Director of Maintenance, Cindy Valentine, who's our Director of Transportation, and Jeff Dinkelman, who is our Director of Employee Relations. We talked about having Director Valentine on there because of the fact that the bus mechanics are actually in the Teamsters bargaining unit. And then for the Transportation Association, Cindy Valentine again, Jeff Dinkelman. And because of a lot of the challenges that are often found with transportation of special education children, we're actually suggesting of adding Director of Special Education Amanda Squires to the list as well. So this is here, if we could have your blessing to move forward with these teams at our next board meeting. Wanted to bring it tonight for any discussion or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Does anybody have any questions? I know I just have like a logistical thing that I don't know the answer to. I know on some of the other things we talked about not actually putting names, but putting titles. Do you think it would be a problem to have names and titles? Because if we approve this and then the person behind the title changes, we've approved something and they may or may not then be there.
I mean, it's a suggestion that we could absolutely do, so we could remove the names and just have the titles is totally fine.
Or then you can leave the name on and say or title.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I just wouldn't wanna stick us to this and then have there be, somebody else in the negotiations that we didn't approve.
Well, in that case, wouldn't we then have Mr. Michael come back and say, we need to have this person on negotiation teams to?
I mean, I would think so, but sometimes that's not always like, what if you're right in the center of negotiations and we don't have a board meeting, and then you have to come to a board meeting to get approval of the name, and you might find yourself in a tricky, timely situation.
So,
Or maybe, I mean, I like having the names because people know who that person is if they're looking back for reference, but like Mr. Mena suggested, maybe putting some kind of verbiage when we bring this back for action that kind of says if this person's title is no longer their title anymore, that this individual who holds this position will be the one doing the negotiations.
Sound good to you?
Yeah.
You can probably add a line or two onto the resolution. So I think Dr. Carino can work on that to find something that might be palatable. The other thing that I'll just say is, as a part of the discussion, you'll probably recall that we will have some closed session meetings where we'll be going into, closed session for the very purpose of talking about negotiations, and that's where, Dr. Carino and I will walk through just, expectations, strategy, parameters with all of you, in preparation for those. So, those will happen over the next few months, and then we'll, kind of be prepared to go in and have a really productive and collaborative, conversation. I will say, it's been a very, very positive working relationship with all of our bargaining units, and so it's been nice to, that they've been so collaborative and worked so well together. So, we have every expectation that will continue this year.
Are there any other questions or comments? No? Willie's pondering over there.
No. Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, we will move on to our next information and discussion item. The DC field trip was pulled off of consent so that we could have a conversation regarding that. And since Mrs. Bodwine was the one to pull it off, I'll let you begin and share your thoughts on why you asked for that.
Yeah, so first I want to start by saying that I'm not opposed to this trip, but wanted to bring this situation to the attention of the board. 3 years ago, when my oldest went on this trip, we paid $1,011, including the refund or the trip insurance with that. Last year, the price went up to $1,608, including that insurance. And this year, we're at $1,600 without the insurance, which I think is another about $200. So we're up to $1,800 for this trip over the course of 3 years. It's gone from $1,000 up to $1,800. And I think that as a district, we have focused a lot on trying to make things accessible and equitable, and I see a great educational value in this, but I feel like we have extended it to a point where I'm not sure it's really an achievable thing for some of our families, and probably more of them than we would think. I am aware that youth assistance, NEF, and I think you said World Strides maybe does something, but.
And PTO.
Okay, that there are some scholarships that are available. But when I looked at this before, I believe we have in that school, and Mr. Mike, or Dr. Carino, if I'm incorrect, please let me know, but I think we have about 13% of the students in that school are on free or reduced lunch. The scholarships, when I inquired about that, those were, I think, maybe for 10 kids, if I'm being generous with what those organizations had allocated to provide. So I just wanted to kind of bring this to everyone's attention, and see if we wanted to have a dialogue on it, because I think it is an important trip, but I think that we need to look at what options we might have to make this more attainable, because I think that, I mean, $2,000 or $1,800, whatever, but in a couple years, it's gonna be well over $2,000. For one of your children to go have a nice time is really not something some families can swing, and so Mr. Rankin, do you want me to kind of explain the other idea I mentioned to you about?
Sure.
Okay. So I had mentioned to Mr. Ranka that one solution I saw, because we do pay a large chunk of money to the travel agency for this trip, is I thought maybe we could consider having an employee that organized this trip and maybe some of our other travel. And that person could do this job that this agency is doing and maybe also work on some fundraising for this trip to limit the cost and make this more accessible. So I'd kind of, I've mentioned this previous times, but a friend of mine has sent their child to a camp where that camp will say, I can pay for my child, I can pay for half my child, I can pay for a quarter, I can pay for 2 kids. What am I willing to contribute to these children having this time? And we could then, have people apply for scholarships within, to that employee, and that person could collect money from people who were willing to help sponsor or from businesses, and maybe we could make it a more doable thing for more people. But that was kind of just generally, I figured since most of you don't have kids that age, you may not be aware of how much this cost has skyrocketed. That is my whole spiel.
Thank you. Mr. Mishner?
Are you aware, are there any fundraising opportunities either at the individual or the group level to offset some or all of the cost of this, like we do for the 5th grade camp, where each child has the opportunity to fundraise up to the full cost of the trip?
I don't believe we've done that and organized that in a way that has been overseen by the school. So it's a situation where I think, there's a lot of fundraising going on by individual groups, and so we have not engaged that yet. I do think that there's an opportunity to look at the trip in particular. But one of the things that's always a constant challenge is, there becomes an expectation of the way that the trip has gone for older siblings. So, if my oldest child received this experience, then I would expect that my younger one's not gonna have a lesser experience. And so I think there are some conversations that we need to have internally related to that would allow for us to look at the trip and say, okay, is a 2-day experience versus a 3-day experience, or are there other modalities or ways that we could get there that might, serve? So we've had tremendous staff running this trip for a long time, and they've put in a ton of hours, and they've really been incredible. So we've been blessed to have really great teachers and people that have done that. But the rising cost of travel, particularly in DC, it's gotten pretty extensive. The hotel fees, the ability to pay for the coach and the drivers and the meals, it has gotten pretty expensive. And so I think if you're weighing out, similar to what Trustee Bodwine is saying, if you're weighing out, okay, I'm gonna pay that for one child, but what if I have multiple kids? And for some families, it's a pretty big bite of the apple. So.
To continue the thought, since this is an 8th grade trip but takes place in November, the first half of the year, what if the 7th graders started their fundraising efforts for this program in 7th grade? Because it is a large sum of money, but if they don't, since 7th grade doesn't have an equivalent large trip, what if they did, 7th grade was fundraising, that could also build excitement and maybe increase participation? And then 8th grade is when they get to use the funds that they raised.
Their parent meeting is in 7th grade, it's next week, or on the 22nd, I believe. So you're, as a 7th grader, aware of the cost, so you do have almost a year to
So that's what I was
plan
saying,
for it, so it is.
if we could provide them some structure, like at the parent meeting in 7th grade, like, here's the big trip, and you can save up on your own, or here's an option, here's a tool, or several tools the district can give you to do something, to offset the cost and work on it now.
Mrs. Roney first, and then Mrs. Bodwine.
And it's been years since my son went on this. My daughter was not allowed to go on because they had something happened, and for a couple years our schools did not participate in this. But I'm sure this is still the case. I know they had like a payment plan.
They do.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, and here I guess the total is wrong. It says $15.99.
That's
That's
before
without
the
insurance.
insurance.
Okay, without insurance.
So if you go off of that, it was like 900 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, you know, I paid like, it was like $8.79 for my son, and that was a long time ago. He just turned 30, so. But, I mean, I get the fundraising, but I think some parents would just rather write the check, and other, you know, parents, we could do some type of fundraising if they so wanted to. I think it's really hard, though, to expect a teacher to be a travel agent, and have them do that. I don't think
That's
I'd
why I'm
want-
saying, like, I would suggest it as a separate position, like, something that would be separate from our teachers, because I think this is a massive undertaking. But I think included in this cost is more than what a salary for that position would be to this organization. I mean, this trip in general, the cost, if you, number of students by what it is probably, like, what do we have, 300 kids going, so like $600,000?
We had 380 go last year.
So that's a
Which was
lot
the
of money.
largest group
Yes.
that's ever gone now.
And,
But the majority of that's going to hotels and busing.
but hotels are divided by 4, so if you have even like, so you have 3 nights in a hotel and 4 children splitting a room. Like, if it's a $600 hotel room, you're $150 a night per kid. So that's $450 of $1,800 would be hotel. So all I'm saying about this is I think it's something that if we want this to continue to be doable for parents, we need to look at it as a district. And I agree that there are options and people can make plans, but I just think that it is sometimes not easy to recognize what the experiences of people may be. And when we say things like, well, people can fundraise, I just would like to, with respect, say that, like in Deerfield, they can raise $50,000 doing a heart jump rope event for the American Heart Association. And they can do that with ease and a lot of effort. Thank you, Deerfield, it's a great cause. But that is not something that is possible in all of our elementaries in this community. Like, if you ask children to sell something, that is a different thing to ask kids to fundraise if you have wealthy friends and family than it is if you're asking other people in your same economic group to spend $30 on a pizza kit, for example. Like, that isn't the same task. So again, I just want to draw the attention to the equity of doing that, because I know we all care about that. But I think if you want to try to or do it as more of a fundraising thing, I'd like to see that then be, it's a fundraised event, or, you know, fundraising money towards the trip as a whole, not towards your student. So like, as a class, our goal is to do this, and then now we've brought the trip price down. Because, I mean, even if you've got 9 months to pay for it, that's $200 a month. Like, that's substantial for some families. So I just want to, like, I appreciate the work that has gone into this trip. I find it to be a great experience. Like I said, I will not be voting no against this when it comes to us. But given that this cost has nearly doubled in 3 years, I just feel like it's something we need to come up with more solutions for than just saying, like, people can plan better, because this is, to me, it's excessive at that point.
Thank you. I think that the great thing is we pulled this off the consent agenda. We're having this good conversation that has probably been due since the trip went up for whatever reason. We are in a situation here in the district where they're looking for a coordinator for the trip. I saw that on the posting today. So probably a good time to even kind of dig our heels in over the next couple weeks and even just ask our school friends, not in Novi, but because there are other districts who do this, like, hey, how much are you guys paying? When are you doing? What time of the year? And just get some very like overarching general information to see if we're even in the ballpark. And if we're all in the ballpark and all the districts around us are doing the exact same thing. I know some districts offer flying and some kids, there's like some things that may change the economics of it. Or we may find without, getting in the weeds, just having an overarching understanding that we're in the ballpark, unfortunately, this is the economics of this type of a trip. So I would suggest maybe over the next couple weeks, just gathering a little bit more information so that we can continue to have this conversation. I know that there's a parent meeting coming up for the 7th graders. It is 11 months from now, which is short and long. It's 11 months, so things could change if we wanted them to and if we committed to doing that. And on the other hand, we don't want to drag this out so that the kids don't get to go.
When it,
So
more so I'd like it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
more
that's
so
okay.
my intention was to bring this up for future years.
Okay.
And this felt like a great opportunity. I don't know that it's something that we can adjust for this specific trip, but we do this every year. So I'd like to have, this.
Yeah. Do you want to say something, Dr.
Yeah,
Marino?
so our current advisor who's exiting, Megan Barnauskas, has done a fabulous job. She has done that price comparison over the past few months because we do realize that the price is increasing. Unfortunately, the price is increasing for many local districts. As Mr. Menka shared, the sacrifice to lower the price is to alter the trip significantly. The company that we utilize has a lot of perks, including bringing a doctor along. So there's definite advantages to going through a company that if we just created another Schedule B position, we would lose some of those things that come along with the company. I do feel like if we proceed with what she has presented, she's done efforts to look at different companies and what those kind of alterations would do to the cost. And any alteration involving staying longer outside of DC, having a longer trip back in, is really only minimizing things minimally, like $100. And that's not a great deal, substantially to the whole trip. We were on a very tight timeline because the early bird pricing ends January 30th, based on what they currently presented. So we will need to go back and alter that if we don't approve this evening. Because that timeline has been established after we waited so long for her to try to determine alternative pricing. That was the timeline that they created for this next trip. So I will need to go back to her. I don't know what her plans are about continuing to support this particular initiative because we are searching for another person. She's been very helpful in trying to bridge that gap and kind of pass the torch to the next person. Unfortunately, we don't have that person in place just yet, but I know that we're trying to get someone and trying to meet that timeline. So we will need to alter that if we don't approve that this evening.
Well, we have a board meeting in 2 weeks, and so that would be before the deadline. Is that not accurate?
But then parents would only have 2 or 3 days in order to be able to register by that deadline.
Because of the timing of the parent meeting, you're saying?
Because of the
But
timing.
because of the board meeting, if it's not
Parent meeting's
approved.
the 22nd, the board meeting's the 23rd, and then the early bird pricing ends the 30th.
I see, so you're saying
So you've-
we need to take action in order for the parents to be allowed to get early bird pricing. And if we don't act now, and we act even the next meeting in December, they'll only have a very brief window to do that, cause it's an individual thing.
Yes, we would need to go back and alter the timeline of the trip because we would not want to be disrespectful to the board and say that we would present to parents that this is the final cost of the trip for a trip that hasn't been board approved. So typically we would need to postpone that, which is fine, we can certainly go back and do that, but I just wanna make the board aware that that would postpone things.
Would it postpone the trip, or do you think that we would be able to talk with the group? Is it World Strides still, or
It is
no?
World
Okay.
Strides,
To tell them.
we already are on a very tight press timeline because we normally have this board approved earlier, but because we were looking at different alternative pricing, we didn't sign with them as early as I think we typically do.
Mrs. Bodwine?
I would be more than happy to move this back into an action item in that situation. My intention is not to derail this trip. I just wanted to have this dialogue.
Okay.
And this felt like the appropriate place to do that. I was unaware of that time constraint, so my apologies to all of you who are working on that. But if we could put this back as an action item, then maybe we could just do information and discussion again in, next meeting or a following meeting to review what options we may be able to come up with for the future.
Right, whether it's changing maybe not going in November, that's what we've done, but why do we have to always do what we've always done, right?
Actually, November is cheaper than the spring when a lot of districts go, so November is actually,
Okay.
has been beneficial for us, because a lot of people go in March and April.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly with a new person coming on board for future trips, that's something we can definitely explain that the board has, concerns about the increasing price, which I think all of us agree with, right? That is, a substantial increase over the course of 3 years, but now is a good time with a new person coming on to lead it, that we can really do that over the next year to look for the 2026 trip.
1 second, Mr. Commissioner. I know
No,
Jamie wanted to say something.
I wanted to
and then-
speak in support of this trip for a second and point something else out. I had a child go on this trip last year, and it's an amazing experience. I'm so thankful that our students are able to have this experience. I think it's important that they go with a chaperone and not a parent. I think there's just a lot of life skills they're learning, and there's a lot of academic things that they're learning along the way. It's an amazing experience. I don't want to derail it. I don't think we're in a position to swap travel agents this year, and
no.
no, I completely agree with Betsy in terms of the price skyrocketing. I know that Ms. Barnauskas did an amazing job last year, and I know she's done a lot of work, not even being in this position, to look at alternatives and things like that. The one thing I think we could maybe do better at is there are a lot of scholarships and funds available, and I think so many families last year looked at the price because it jumped $400 year over year last year, and so many families just said, whoa, we're out, and weren't necessarily aware of the generous funds from the youth assistants and the PTOs and the NEF and I think FLAG through World Strides. So I think if we can help support those scholarships or grants or however they're worded and make those better known, I think that might take the price down for some people, even if it's just $200-300.
I would definitely agree that there is definitely, whether it be a life skill because your child has never gone anywhere, sleepover away from you, not family, but, where they had to be responsible for getting themselves up in the morning and getting ready and all of that. Back in the pandemic days, I have had kids who've gone on this trip and said it's the best experience that they had in Novi, and I have a son who didn't get to go on the trip because of COVID and the pandemic. And I think the dynamics of the graduating class this particular year in 2025 show maybe there's a closeness, but I also think I've seen classes prior to that have gone on this trip together that have made different types of bonds within the dynamics of the kiddos that the 2025 class kind of missed out on, along with all the other things that we could talk about. But Mr. Mishner?
So I was going to make the motion, and we can continue the discussion after the motion's on the table.
Yeah, or would we want to see if Betsy wants to make it, since she pulled it off and has said that she, either way, it doesn't matter to me, but I just kind of got the gist that she was thinking about doing that, and then we kept talking.
Can I ask one more quick question to Laura? What happens if we don't have a coordinator in the next month or two?
Mrs. Barnauskas has agreed to help us bridge the gap. I don't know whether she's necessarily agreeable to getting us over the next 2 months, but Mr. Baker certainly would support, as well as the Novi Middle School administration, and I have committed to supporting this trip. So
Would we ever be in a position where we need to offer additional compensation to the coordinator in order to find them?
I think it's premature to say that. I mean, it is a great deal of work, but that is a negotiated rate with the NEA because it is in a Schedule B position, so that's not something necessarily that we can just decide that this evening. I mean, obviously, they would appreciate extra funds, but we would need to have that discussion of what the expectations are for that position going forward.
Mrs. Bodwine?
I move that we approve the Washington DC field trip as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Bodwine, supported by Mr. Mena. Any more comments or questions? Yeah, Mrs. Bodwine.
Not entirely related to this motion, but I wanted to just reiterate that what I was thinking when I proposed having somebody function more as like a travel agent would be a separate non-educational position. So I'm not suggesting this as we ask a teacher to take on this massive amount of work in addition to their normal workload. But I think that without really increasing what this trip would cost to our families, we could have enough, have parents paying enough to support their child's trip as well as help funding that position. And we could have that person work with local businesses, other families, and try to do fundraising to minimize some of these costs. So that's like a separate topic, but I just wanted to be clear on what I was asking. I wasn't saying I think that we should have a teacher also as part of this, what is Section B, is that what you call it?
Schedule B.
Schedule B, thank you, I was like, that doesn't sound right. As that Schedule B position, I would not anticipate that to be that. And I also did want to just say that Mrs. Bernaskis has done an exceptional job with this trip, and this is in no way frustration towards her. This is the post-COVID travel cost explosion, but I think it's something that, you know, I would like us to address. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for entertaining this.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner?
So my one additional thought is, maybe if we have a discussion on this at some future meeting, to come to an agreement as a board as to what the price should be that's reasonable for families to pay, and then we come up with a strategy for the district or fundraising strategies or a combination of both to meet the difference. And that way we can kind of cost control the trip, and it would keep it consistent, you know, year to year. And there can be annual increases as we feel reasonable, but that way it wouldn't jump by like $500 in 1 year. We wouldn't get to the place where it was not obtainable for, you know, a majority of our families.
I think certainly we could give way to what our thoughts are and what we would feel is appropriate without, we don't want to get in someone else's lane. We don't want to be doing the operations. I mean, if someone is being hired in this position to plan this trip, we don't want to set policy per se because there are so many factors. But I think that the next person who's doing this will get an idea that the board is willing to support a trip that costs up to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it would be nice to see a proposal come from our administration for cost.
Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I've kind of sat here quietly because I agree. Costs are getting astronomical, but it's not only this trip.
Mm-hmm.
There are other immersion trips, and the one that's going to Germany next summer. There's a lot of these trips that we are approving for our students, that the cost of the trip is just astronomical. And to come up and say, oh yeah, we're gonna hold the cost of the DC trip for this, we can't do that because these other trips are out. So I think we just need to keep in mind that we are Novi, we are a very affluent, part of our district's very affluent, but we also have a part that's not, and they can't necessarily afford all these things. So, thank you to Mrs. Bernaskis for looking into what we can do to try to bring the cost of this down. Yes, it is too late for this one, and we're doing what we can. This is a very valuable trip for our kids. So, I think we need to really take a look at all the trips that these kids are taking. And, you know, the one for Europe sticks out to me, $6,000. You know, this now is over, you know, it's almost $2,000 for 3 days. It's over $500 a day. It's getting ridiculous. But the educational value is there, and not all families can afford some of this education. So we need to keep not just this trip in mind, but all trips.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any other comments, Mrs. Roney?
I just agree with Paul. I agree, not disagree.
No, I was like, I disagree.
No,
It's like, this is very affordable.
No, oh yeah, right. I think though, I mean, it's gonna be really hard to keep a cost down because of what travel costs nowadays. But I think as a district, the person maybe that comes into this position can look at maybe more creative ways for fundraising and such. Like you said, we do have a lot of businesses in the area. You know, I think there's probably some out there that would give to a fund, you know, like this, because it is such an important trip. So I think I mean, we have to stay in our lane. We can't say, this is what you need to do, but we can suggest that, you know,
For sure.
as a board.
Yeah, and I think this trip is slightly different. I don't disagree with Paul that $6,000 to send your kiddo to, you know, Europe is extremely costly and unmanageable for most families. This trip, though, is a little different because it really is all-encompassing of a whole grade, right? And so I think that it is very important on this particular trip that we work with the coordinator, that Dr. Carino works with the coordinator, to really think outside the box on how we can get as many kiddos there as possible. So, okay. Mr. Mishner?
One final thought.
Yeah.
I think a similar topic came up several board meetings ago in relation to traveling to Lansing. And I think at that point, the discussion the board had was maybe there were certain trips that we recognize as a district that were critical for education and at certain development points for our students as they progress K to 12. I think Lansing was identified one, this was the other trip mentioned, and there was a third that I can't recall. And the thought was, because at that point, the Lansing trip wasn't being conducted by all of our elementary schools even at that point. So the thought was, it was the 5th grade camp, so the thought was maybe the district needed a plan to ensure that all 5 elementary schools could do Lansing. Everybody had an opportunity for the 5th grade camp, and there was an opportunity for everybody to do the Washington DC trip. So I'm thinking maybe since the board does have purview over curriculum, if there were certain trips that we recognized as part of Novi's core curriculum for our students, then maybe they would be something that we would try and make sure that the cost was affordable for all of our students since they were considered curriculum. I don't know if the Europe trip would fall into that, but that's a discussion we could have. I'm not saying that it would or wouldn't be, but maybe there would be a way of defining certain trips as these are ones that we want to ensure all students have the opportunity for. Certain trips, while still no less valuable, they just wouldn't fall under that purview, so.
Thank you. I think that's definitely a thought.
Okay, one more.
Bodwine?
So I agree with Mr. Mishner, and I think that, and I also agree with Mr. Cook, I'll just say that the, some of the other trips that I see through some of our other clubs and athletics, I also find those costs to be somewhat shocking, although I travel less frequently than some of you, so that may be just my shell shock to that. But I do think if we identify certain things that we say, yes, these are important and we want to make sure they're accessible, personally, I would like us to see some type of, like a scale on, like, based on your income level, this trip will cost this much, and have it moderated out so that we can all afford it, or lower the cost of the trip through group fundraising so that everyone has the opportunity. And with recognition of the many organizations that do help with the fundraising and scholarship opportunities for this, I just want to reiterate that when I inquired about this, because I had said like, oh, hey, this trip has, gone up $600 from one child to the next, and they said, oh, well, there's scholarships. So I inquired, like, okay, well, what are they? Because at that point it piqued my interest more as a board member. But these organizations told me they had scholarships for a few students. So if we have 13% of that class of 500 kids, that's not a few students who are on free and reduced lunch. And if you look up like the income level for that, this isn't even sort of close to attainable at that income level. Like family and friends that I have that are not even remotely close to eligible for free and reduced lunch have said this trip is really got to a point where it is like a big decision of if you want to invest this in one of your children, right? So I just think that, like, I want to just say one more time, I think it would be an amazing thing if we could get a position that could coordinate those trips that we think are critical for kids' development, coordinate fundraising, and like do applications. If people wanted scholarships, you could apply to that coordinator of these trips. Because the other thing that I mentioned to Mr. Manka is when I talked to Sue at the NEF about like, well, tell me like what your process is for all this, because I just became kind of curious. And they may have changed it since last year, so if that's happened, my apologies to the NEF. But the process was you could fill out a whole like application that would include like all of your income information. And that to me was like kind of surprising because I'm like, well, the NEF is a group of parents in Novi. So if you're somebody who's having a hard time affording this trip, are you really gonna wanna go like email your neighbors and let them know that this is a struggle for you? Cause most people probably aren't really gonna wanna do that. Especially when it's like most of the kids that NEF would help would get a few $100s towards it. So I just feel like, in a way, when we wanna offer help for people, I just feel like it's so important to make sure that we're doing that also with dignity, because we shouldn't have to have our children saying like, hey, my family doesn't have what your family has, in order to give them this experience. And I also think that our families that travel less frequently, that do less of these worldwide adventures, are probably the kids that benefit the most from this, and are usually the ones who miss. And so that is my final thought on why I think we should look into if that is a thing that we could support as a district.
Thank you.
And thank you all again for letting me talk about this so much.
Thanks. Mr. Cook?
I guess kind of like to add, you know, there's a lot of talk about fundraising and stuff, and there was a trip that one of our neighboring districts took for a third of the cost that our district took, because the person coordinating in our district did not want to do fundraising. But then again, if you look at the fundraising that we'd go through for athletics, for the arts, we are fundraised to death. I think I pay more in fundraising than I do in taxes in this community. But it all goes to good causes, and you know, but it gets to a point where it's like another fundraiser's coming around, another fundraiser's coming around. I think the biggest bang is if we are frugal in the trips we take. We are not penny wise and pound foolish, but we make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck out of these trips. So, yeah, a lot of people in this community can afford some of these things, a lot of people can't. And our, like I said before, our coordinators need to keep that in mind when they plan these trips.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We will move on to superintendent's report. Mr. Michael.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you for just all of your support through School Board Appreciation Month. Hopefully you felt the love from our kids and the staff. I definitely appreciate all of you for sure. I want to just say that the year started off with a lot of excitement, and not a good way, in that we had a vehicle enter our building, literally crash through some aluminum glass wall, which interestingly was a spot of the building that was completely, it did not hit any structural beams or pillars. You know, I appreciate the staff that came in and did a lot of great work over break to get cleaned up and help get that sorted. It's led to a lot of different discussions about usage of our lot and all sorts of things, so more to come on that related to the fallout from that. But thankful that we got the room fixed, and kiddos in the art classes, I was there over this week a couple times, and they're meeting in an alternate location, quite frankly, right next to where that classroom was, which is great. Had the opportunity to visit some of our walkthroughs of Wit and Wisdom at Village Oaks, and so there's a process that the staff is going through Mike's department on having them do a protocol where they go and observe other teachers teaching the lessons. And I just had a chance to sit in, appreciate Ms. Dinkelman actually wanting to do that within her own building, and so watching the teachers have discussions with each other about their different practices has been just amazing to see the conversation that's going on. And it's not all perfect, you know, there's things that, you know, are, you know, needing to be tweaked and adjusted, but just the way that they're being reflective and thinking about their practice has been really, really cool. I also wanna let you know that I hope I don't steal any of Dr. Carino's thunder, but we had a really great administrative meeting today, and just seeing all of the different pieces that a lot of our staff are bringing into play. Rosalie Johnson was talking about a partnership with New Hope which is an area that we don't think a lot about. And so this is an area, it's an organization, it's a nonprofit just locally here that's helping to provide grief support for our staff and students, and they run in groups, and they're doing all of this free of charge. And so to be able to have experts, to be able to meet kids who are grieving through different experiences, and grief shows itself in a lot of different ways. And then to hear Dennis Heisman talk about, both of which are in Dr. Carino's department, talk about his organization of our crisis teams and all the medical emergency response teams, and just a lot of systems that have been built over the last couple of years that I think are important to keep our kids safe, and all the great work that's going on with that. Really appreciate it. And sent a message out to families. I know that I had communicated with the board earlier. Power School, who's our student information system, did receive a cyber attack. Seems like this has become a more common thing with a lot of big institutions. There was nothing in our internal frameworks that had failed, or any of our protocols, but our data was compromised along with thousands and thousands of other school districts across the country and world. So they're working through that. We'll keep you posted on any additional updates. Thankfully, we don't store any financial data or anything like that in those systems, but it's never good when you hear about cybersecurity threats and things like that. So outside of those things, it's been a really great start to the year, the 2025, and people came back with a lot of good energy this week, and appreciate all your support as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Ms. Cicluna?
I have a short report for you guys since we just came back. Just an update on the transportation team. So when we left, I had said that the team was going to finish training 6 of our bus drivers this week, and they did that on StopFinder. So bus drivers are completely trained. We are missing 9 mounts to mount the tablets in the buses, and that does require quite a lead time because those are built out and they're permanently affixed to the buses. So we did sign the document to order the mounts. That has gone out this week. There is a lead time to get those in, so we do have buses missing the mounts. So those are operating without the tablets, which means we are going to be transporting children without the tablets, which means we're going to be running routes without using the StopFinder app. So we're still going to be not using StopFinder, missing the mark on achieving that promise to parents, at least for the next, I would say, 2.5 months on particular routes when we use these buses. It's not because we want to, it's a technology, it's an equipment issue, it's just because we don't have them. And once we get them up and running, the drivers are ready. It's really just we need to get them installed and get them up and running. So it's really just an equipment issue. But the drivers are ready. And I will also say they're really to fit the spare buses. We are using some of the spare buses right now, and transparently, at the end of the year last year, we did have 2 buses collide in the transportation parking lot. No children were on there. Actually, one bus was completely empty, and a driver hit one of the buses, which unfortunately damaged 2 of our good buses. So now we have to use 2 spares. And that's kind of how we're ending up using spare buses without these mounts instead of buses that had the mounts installed. So that's kind of in the predicament that we're in. But we'll get there. It's just a process. It happens sometimes. The transportation team is doing what they have to do to get us over this hump, and yeah, we'll get there.
And I think just to add a little perspective to it, no one was promised a particular day or time that those would be operational. And I would also say that prior to having them, we had nothing. So,
Correct.
The expectation of this is a new innovation that we're trying to get off the ground, but it's not as though students are any less safe than they have been historically. This is a new innovation that we're trying to get off the ground, and we'll get there, so.
Yes, thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for your transparency, and, things happen. This is, the school district isn't, any different than us crashing into different things along the way.
It's a great call to make to your insurance company when you have to say, I hit one of my vehicles with another vehicle. So
Right, yeah, there you go.
I hope that was
Can I
my
ask that's why we have spares.
Mrs. Roney first, and then
I just have a question. This mount, I mean, I guess I need to know, like, is it like this huge thing, or, I mean, cause.
Why it takes 2 months.
You know the cell phone mounts that you would buy to put on in your car to to hold your cell phone, because we're not supposed to be driving and holding our cell phone.
Right.
I mean, those are technically, you can put them on and take them off. This is permanently affixed to the bus for a very good reason, right? Like, we don't want our bus drivers taking them and moving them from one bus to another, or really taking them and putting them in their own personal vehicle, right? So it's really to protect the district, that we're spending a lot of money on these mounts to affix them, and we want them to be permanent, and we don't want them to be mobile from one vehicle to another. So it's just like a cell phone mount, except it's going to be permanently affixed and basically welded or molded or bolted into the dashboard.
I guess my question was, I mean, we had, I think it was Frog Force, they printed out at the library makerspace, they did like little 3D arms, right? Is there something we could do in like a week or so, just a temporary fix? So
I can answer that. So
Go ahead.
the requirements that we have through the Michigan State Police, they do not allow any modifications once the buses have passed inspection. So they have to go through another round of inspections. They're highly, highly regulated. It's not, it's inconsequential probably from a logical perspective, but once they get into like welding and changing the physical structure of the bus, we have to take it through another safety inspection and all of those things, so.
Okay.
Mrs. Cleaver, did you have a question?
Yeah, just for Ms. Cluna, do you know why the mounts weren't purchased like last March when the iPads were purchased?
So we actually ordered 27 tablets, and they came with 27 mounts. That's how many buses we had up and running at that point in time. But then, if you've got a bus that gets in an accident and ultimately gets, put out of service, ultimately goes to the shop, we didn't order additional mounts at that time for our spare buses. And so that's the predicament that we're in right now.
Is the route tracking turned on for the other 18 buses then right now?
It is. So the way that Stop Finder works in the tablet is Stop Finder, along with GPS, it's automatic.
Yeah.
So the tablet, the only app that's functional on the tablet, because the only app that comes on the tablet is Stop Finder. It is explicitly controlled by TransFinder, which is the company that we partnered with. It's Stop Finder, it's the route or the program that the parents see. There is a component that the parents need to do, which I'll let our transportation team handle that. They're actually gonna do the brunt of the work for the parents. They'll do an outreach to the parents to communicate with them, so more to come on that. There's nothing that the parents have to do there. But there is some additional work to set up like a geo fence to each route and each school that has to be set up, so that they'll know when the bus is coming towards the stop. Ultimately, they won't see the bus on the exact route. That's an aspect of safety for our kids. We don't want to show the bus on the full route across the street, like on every single street across the board, right? We don't want everybody to see where a bus is.
Do you have a timeline for when they're rolling that out for the 18 buses that do have both the?
Every bus that is utilizing Stop Finder on the route, when it's up and running, that should automatically be it should be in process right now. For the geofencing portion of it, I will say Cindy's been out this week, so once she is back, that is something that she's gonna be kicking off pretty immediately. I would say probably in the next month and a half, it should be up and running like 100% for all of the routes.
Okay. It's just as on behalf of all the parents in our district, when this was dangled in front of us a year ago, everybody got really excited thinking they were gonna be in their warm car or their warm house. And so we just keep hearing about it. And in my mind, you're like, oh, how hard is it to go buy an iPad and a mount and turn on the GPS? So I think some of it might be a communication issue that
Definitely.
we told parents about this, and it was brought up at a coffee with the superintendent, and Cindy was there, and I think it got a lot of people excited, and then it just it's frustrating that.
Yeah, I think it's communication and I think it's also a lack of understanding, probably on our side, to say what was actually needed to set this up to get it over the finish line. Because transparently on our side, right, you think it's probably a mount and an app and let me just set it up in the bus and it'll do its thing, but it really isn't, right? Like they had to set up the routes, they had to train the drivers, and we've got some, you know, older folks driving and they've got to press some buttons on the app, and some people aren't technologically savvy and setting up the routes, but then also this geo-fencing that they have to set up, that was this additional component, and this seems to be the last hurdle that we have to do. And so, like I said, once Cindy gets back in the saddle and this is the last hurdle that we get over, I mean, this should be the final straw that gets us there.
Is there an ongoing cost to the district for, like, is it subscription based other than just the hardware?
There is an annual cost to the district for this, yep.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Was that it?
That's all I
That's
got,
all your
yeah.
report? That was a good report, very robust. Dr. Carino?
Thank you. I have both mine and Mr. Jeremy's
Oh,
this
wow,
evening.
okay.
So, as Mr. Minker shared, we are doing lots of great work in the Talent Management and Development Department. He did steal my thunder for a couple things with Rosalie Johnson and Dennis Heisman, but I'm glad that you hear that the work that they are doing. I do want to kind of plug an upcoming event. On Saturday, January 25th, we have our 3rd annual Parent Camp. It's a partnership between our district and the Novi Mental Health Alliance. We're very excited to be able to offer breakfast and childcare. We have a keynote speaker, Dom Frazina from the Positivity Project. So if you remember, Rosalie presented earlier this year about the Positivity Project and our slow rollout within our district. But he will be here to talk about fostering positive character and resilience in children. And so it should be a great opportunity. There will be some breakout sessions about raising resilient kids, supporting your child's mental well-being. So it will be a great event. And so that is Saturday, January 25th at Novi High School from 9 a.m. to noon. So if any of you can make it, we would love to have you. And we just want to thank you for your support of everything that we do in our district. I know it is sometimes a thankless job, and we are very grateful for all that you do. And there really isn't a whole lot since we just met the Thursday before break to expand on. For Mr. Jeremini, who was unable to be here this evening, he shared that the mid-year diagnostic assessment is underway. He's looking forward to celebrating students' progress and identifying areas of focus and growth in the winter administration. WIDA Day of testing is coming up February 11th, so that's just a reminder of that all of our English language learners will be in the district for those assessments, and any non-English language learner would have a virtual day from home. He also wants to extend his gratitude to the board for your service and support of your work. And as the semester concludes, teachers will complete grade and progress reporting, and those report cards will be available on the Power School parent portal after the conclusion of the semester. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. We will move on to board communication. Does any board members have anything that they would like to share? I know we all just got back, so there hasn't been much happening. We have, we're 4 days in? 3, 4? Mrs. Roney?
Just a reminder, I know Mrs. Holly has sent it out to us, but the Oakland County School Board Association meeting is the 29th of this month. And I think we can still register, right?
Yes.
There you
For
go.
the dinner meeting, right?
For the dinner meeting, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder.
No problem.
Any other board communication? Mrs. Bodwine?
You mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to thank all of our directors and principals and everybody else who showered us with love this afternoon or this evening. I have affectionately referred to this as Swag Day the last couple of years, and it brings me so much joy. Of course, the little presents and stuff are lovely, but it's absolutely wonderful when we have the notes from the kids, and sometimes this job can be hard and a lot of work, and it is just absolutely invaluable to have that nice reminder of why we are all here. And also all the wonderful new things that we will all be wearing around the district. So guys will get to see me in some new Novi gear instead of the same few things. But, so again, everybody, thank you. It's really appreciated, and we're all very honored to serve up here.
Thank you.
And welcome to Mrs. Kleber.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I like Swag Day. We're gonna put that on the agenda next January. Don't forget. Yes, please.
I just
Mrs.
wanted
Kleber.
to quickly, well, it's publicly noted, thank the community for this opportunity to sit at this table, and all the people in the boardroom, thank you. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to hopefully make a positive impact on the district. I just want to thank all of you for your support through the campaign, and my husband and kids. I forgot to give my mom and dad a shout out earlier that they were watching online, if they're still watching now. And again, the community for all the votes to get here, and my friends and family for helping during the campaign. And I'm really looking forward to working with the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, to working with everybody over the next 6 years.
Great. We're happy to have you. Welcome. Any other board communication? Mr. Cook?
Yes, I was gonna welcome Jamie again and Mary Ann back, but I have a question. Our e-vans, are they wrapped and are they getting use?
Yeah, so it's a great question. We actually had a meeting about that with our administrators today. We had to create a procedures document, which Dr. Carino and Ms. Cicluna worked on. So we have protocols that have to be followed in terms of checking driving records, and basically we look at our board policy as it relates to, you know, what our requirements are.
There goes my average.
Then we have to have a series of processes and procedures for being able to use them. The first outing of the vans for student group will be tomorrow, with being utilized. Our drivers will actually be able to, our bus drivers will be able to use them following the typical trip procedures if they're during non-route times. And then, because of the fact that they're 10 passenger, our staff will be able to utilize them during the times where our drivers are doing routes, without having a CDL. So we have those procedures in place. They very diligently worked on over the last few weeks. And then Mr. DeGrew has worked with the company to get them wrapped. I don't think that they were wrapped as of early this week, but I know that they were slated and scheduled before we left on break. So those are coming so that they don't look like a stranger danger van coming up. It's actually got a nice Novi Wildcat wrap on it, looks really sharp. So, and then the other thing that we're still waiting is that the third van is being outfitted with a lift so that we can take a child with a wheelchair or a person with a wheelchair. So that's on its way as well. So they will have their first maiden voyage actually tomorrow. So it's a timely request.
Do you wanna hop on?
So the amount that we put in there for the candy bowl, you can't use that for the?
I don't think those are, I don't think they are swappable, so.
Do the people using them need to have a chauffeur's endorsement?
They do not.
They do not?
No. Okay. No.
We should go on a field trip, guys.
So, okay, yeah, I was curious. This was
It's a really good question, yeah, it's very timely, we've been working on that the last few weeks, so. Yep.
Thanks. Any other board communication? Okay. Seeing none, I thought that this meeting was gonna be real short and I was gonna get the award for the shortest meeting, but
Sorry.
we're still here and it was a great conversation and super relevant and important, so I am not dogging on that. But at 10-7, I was like, oh, I win, and here we are. So I am gonna ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Mishner,
Motion to adjourn.
we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mishner, supported by Mrs. Roney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.